mistakes before they work on it over the weekend. So this is just kind of the intro to a longer one that you'll spend all weekend on. So basically, a scale drawing is you take a pre-existing image that maybe the artist made themselves, or they took from a photograph that they've made, or maybe someone else's work to make a mural or a picture on a wall for a client. And so you use a grid over your original photograph or artwork. So this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 by 1, 2, 3, 8 by 5. It looks like maybe a 1-inch grid or a half-inch grid. And then on the wall, if it was a mural or a canvas or paper, you're scaling it up. And so you, whatever scale you have here, if you need it 5 times bigger, then you do your squares. Same number of squares, but 5 times larger. And then you would go and look, well, this square in the bottom corner just has a little bit of the tiger stripes. And so I would figure out how that works by comparing that and using the grid to locate things. There's on Canvas, we have the assignment called Master Study, and you're required to choose one of the 8 pictures here. If you click on one, you may be able to open a page and right-click the image and save it. I did a screen capture for a few and then crop the image so I could see it. Or you can even just do a Google search for a different file format as long as it matches exactly to the one here. So you chose Lady and the Swan by Rubens. As long as it looks like this link, you can get your image from a different source if you would like. Or you can do a screenshot or right click and save it. So what you're going to do is capture it into PowerPoint or Word and resize it so that the longest side is 6 inches, and then let the auto formatting balance that out for you there. If you'll print it in black and white, you don't have to struggle as much to decide how dark is that red compared to the wall, or how dark is this red compared to the yellow. If you do a conversion to black and white, you can see the values as grays and blacks, and you'll be reproducing this in charcoal. What you'll do first is print it out and then make a grid on it. So I've got this painting called The Lamentation, and so that my lines are straight across the picture plane, I measured 1 inch at the top and bottom and the sides. So I haven't done this side yet. So line up my ruler right on the edge and mark it at 1 inch intervals. And then when I'm drawing, I have 2 points so that I get a square line. And you can do this in like a blue ink pen if it shows up better for you. And you'll see my picture, this square isn't quite 1 inch. So what I would do is when I reproduce it, I'll have a square where as I fill in things, I just stop short so that this last image is just partially in there. But since I sized it in the computer, the longest size is exactly 6 inches. So when I print it, I don't have any squares that are uneven on the longest length. Okay. And then just hold on to this. That's what you'll be using as your reference point. And you can see the grid here. So once that's done, you can just move that to the side, and you're going to work on your mixed media paper so that I can film this for you. I'm using a smaller sheet, but just like the Xerox copy or the print, I marked the top and bottom of my paper at intervals, so I'd get square lines, and it should be marked at 3 inch intervals. So if you're not careful with the first step, which is to make your grid, you're going to get really skewed squares, and that's going to look terrible. So you're going to need to start over until you measure that correctly, so that you have squares and not parallelograms or lines that wander off diagonally. And so yours will be a lot bigger than this. But for purposes of the camera work, I'm going to stop short on this sheet of paper. I'm going to say that, let's say I'm looking at the bottom of my image here, and then I've got this one. And I'm just going to go square by square. And so like I mentioned, this one got cropped off a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and use this full square, but I'm going to mark where that sort of stops. And then there's this one has a border. I think some of it's over here. So if I look here, there's this foot. And so it comes up and across and comes back. And then in this square, it goes this way. And as it goes up, I see there's a drapery fold here. Doesn't quite get all the way to the top of that square. So when I look at this square, my drapery fold, it's going to stop about here. So now I know as I draw this boot how far down I need to go. I'm just going to pencil this in as I go, and I might simplify some of the folds, so just capture the major elements, and then once I have a nice pencil sketch, I'm going to fill it in with lights and darks. So for the final version, this is the reproduction. But it'll be a black and white study like this. Just know that if you switch between Vine charcoal and compressed charcoal, you'll have more luck. So Vine charcoal will build up all these nice and really soft gray tones. You might have some pure white in some areas, but not much. And then reserve that compressed charcoal for kind of the ends, for these very, very dark spots. So the hair, the shadow area between her cheek and this young girl's hair, between the thumb and the finger in her hair, and just add that compressed charcoal, the darkest points, lightly. I'm going to show you one thing to do with a towel as you're drawing with compressed charcoal. So I'm going to switch cameras and finish the video off with a little without drawing my image, I just was going to show you the Vine charcoal makes this darkness of black, and the compressed charcoal makes a much darker one. That's why you want to save that for the end. A paper towel or a cloth is good to have because it allows you to blend, but also to subtract if it gets too dark. The compressed charcoal really sticks to the paper, so oftentimes you're going to get too dark and you're going to blend it out, and it's going to cover up things that you wanted, and then you come back in with the eraser. So there's a bunch of back and forth adding and erasing to get your lights and darks. But I would do your preliminary work in pencil, and then if you have a spot that just needs a real gentle shape, you can try the Vine charcoal. And you can also, one thing is to hold your compressed charcoal or Vine charcoal in a towel if you want it off your fingers. And then these cardboard shapers are ways to push the charcoal around, kind of like as if you had a pencil. And you can find these at Hobby Lobby or in an art store, but you can make them yourself. So with an extra towel, you can just kind of roll it into a point, and it works the same way. Or even maybe roll it around a pencil. And then as you draw with charcoal, you can move it around. Like so. The important thing to know is it gets too dark, rub it away and erase it away. And you'll get quite a range of lights and darks that way. You have to go back and forth between the eraser and the charcoal.